Okay, so this next question is create a class called purchase. Each purchase contains an invoice number, an amount of sale, and an amount of sales tax. Okay, include set methods for the invoice number and sale amount. Within the set method for the sale amount, calculate the sales tax as 5% of the sales amount. Also include and display a method that displays the purchase details. Save the file as purchase.java. Now this is going into the brave new world of object-oriented programming. We're going to now create our own class. We've been using classes now. We've been using the scanner class, and we're saying we can declare scanner objects and then call methods for those objects. For example, so we can say scanner KB equals new scanner, and so on. And then we can say int equals kb.nextInt. Okay, so we declared a scanner object, and scanner is just a class in Java, and we've been calling methods for that object, nextInt, next line, those sort of methods. Okay, and they've been returning data that we've been storing back in our own data fields. Okay, we're now going to be creating our own classes, so we can create objects based on those as well. Okay, so that's where we're heading for this question. It might seem confusing at first, but once you've done a few of these, hopefully you become more comfortable, and by the end of term you should be really good at these sorts of questions. So, public class. We'll take it slow, and I'll explain everything as we're going. Public class purchase. Okay, and in here we don't go public static void main. Our main's going to go in this create purchase class. Okay, so it's going to go in another class. So we're going to create an object, a data class, and then we're going to use that data class to declare purchases or create purchases. Okay, sounds confusing. Once we've done it a few times, you'll hopefully be happier with it. Now it needs an invoice number. So private, keep all your data private. Int invoice number. Okay, private. We'll make the sale amount. We'll make that a double because it's going to be dollars and cents. Okay, and then private double sales tax. Okay, and we're told the rate of sales tax is 5%. Okay, so let's make that that's another one of those magic numbers. Let's make it a constant at the top. Public static final double. I'll make it a double because it could change to 4.75% or whatever later. Sales tax. Okay, and that equals 5 divided by 100.0. Okay, so 5% means 5 per 100. So 5 divided by 100 makes it a nice fraction that we can use later. 5.0 divided by 100. Okay. So we've got our data items here. So every purchase we create, like in this class, in our create purchase class, every purchase we create will have its own invoice number, its own sales amount, and its own sales tax. Okay, it'll be an area of memory where those three data fields are stored. So let's create a constructor. Public. Okay, and the constructor's got the name of the class. It's got public followed by the name of the class, followed by, you can have various constructors, but this one's just got nothing inside round brackets. That's the one called the default constructor. And there's no type there, so there's no void or int or anything in there. It's just public followed by the name of the class, followed by round brackets. And that's the default constructor. And all we're going to do is initialize all our data. Invoice number is equal to 0. Sales amount is equal to 0.0. And the sales tax equals 0.0. So that's all the constructor does. It just creates everything and makes it all ready to use. With the scanner constructor, when we create a scanner object, it might do whatever it needs to do to link up to the keyboard. Okay, so our class is much simpler than the scanner class. Now there are other constructors we could add as well. We could add all sorts of constructors here, but we'll just leave the default constructor now. And whenever anything of type purchase is created, this code here automatically runs, so all our data is nice and clean and initialized to zeros. Okay, that's what the constructor's for. Constructor's for setting up the object so it's ready to use. Okay, it says include set methods for the invoice number and sale amount. So we need to add some set methods. So they're often called setters. And the more technical term for them is mutators. So setters and mutators are the same thing. And they're all to do with changing class data, letting something outside the class change class data. And the class data here is all private. So the only way to get access to that data is via these methods, which are setters or getters or setters or mutators. Okay, so we want a public void set invoice number int new number and invoice number equals new number. I'm doing it this way for now. You'll see later on in the term I do it a different way. I'm just trying to not throw too much at you at once here, so I'm just trying to keep it as simple as I can. And then we need the other setter for the sales tax. Set sales amount, sale amount, and it's new amount. Okay, and sale amount equals new amount, and it's a double because sale amount's a double up here, so make it a double as well. And we've also got to calculate our sales tax. Sales tax equals sale amount. Oh, I left off the end there. Sale amount. Sale amount, new amount. Yep, just left off the N out of that sale amount. And sales tax is a sale amount times the sales tax rate. Okay, so if we've got a sale amount of $100, the sales tax will be $5, 5 per 100. Okay, and then the last thing the question says is add a display method that displays the details for the purchase. Okay, so add a display method. And again, we usually do this a different way. We usually create a method called toString, but for now I'll just create a method called display. Okay, so public void display. Okay, and it's going to display the details of the current purchase. So system.out.println. Okay, and we've got an invoice number. And I'll go comma, and then sale amount plus, and then the sales tax. Round brackets, semicolon. And you might remember in another question we looked at, we formatted our data. We might do that here as well. So we'll put a $sign in and a $sign there. Okay, and we'll format these. So string.format, and we open our double quotes and close them again, and comma, and then a round bracket at the end, and we did the same thing for the next one as well. So grab that, paste it there, and then close the round brackets. So you got round bracket, opening round bracket, close round bracket, opening round bracket, close round bracket, and that closed bracket there belongs with this print line opening bracket here. Okay. Now the format we want is a %sign. Percent means give me some data. .2 means 2 decimal places, and F means floating point number. So there's a whole lot of characters you can type in here, and don't worry if this scares you at the moment, but later on in the term you'll become really comfortable with these. We'll be doing a lot of formatting data. And same there. So format the sales amount with 2 decimal places. And we might put a 1,000 separator in as well. So put a comma there. That just means put a 1,000 separator in. So if the amount was 1,250, it'll be 1,250.00 or whatever if it's 2 decimal places. Same for sales tax. Might as well put a comma there. We might be talking about huge amounts for houses or something. And that should be it. Okay, so let's just have a quick review of our code before we go on to the next part, which is part B. Create a class name purchase, which is what we've done. And each purchase contains an invoice number, an amount of sale, and a sales tax. Invoice number, sales amount, and sales tax. Keep all your data private. So nothing outside the class can access it or corrupt it or change it directly. And then we've just got a default constructor there. This code automatically runs whenever you create a purchase, and it just sets all the data to 0. So it's just initializing all of this data up here. Okay. And then we've got some setter methods, which are also called mutators if you want to use a technical term. And we've got a set invoice number, and we pass in a new number, and we set the invoice number, which is our class field up here, invoice number equal to the new number passed in. Okay, and sales, set sale amount, we pass in a new amount, and we set sale amount equal to the new amount passed in, and sales tax is equal to the sales amount times the sales tax rate, which is our constant at the top here. Okay, and then we've got a display method which displays all of our data. And I've just got the field names here. We could probably neaten all this up a bit, use invoice space number and sales space amount. And anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's just a little tutorial question, so I'm not going to be too fussy about the output. But we did make it so that it's got two decimal places and 1,000 separated, which is going to be really nice when it appears on screen. Okay, so that's our purchase class. Now we're going to go on to part B. And part B says, create an application that declares a purchase object and prompts the user for the purchase details. When you prompt for an invoice number, do not let the user proceed until a number between 1,000 and 8,000 has been entered. Okay, so this is quite an advanced question. We're going to be doing validation, and we're going to be forcing the user to stay on an input until they've entered something that's valid, and then we'll move on to the next input. Okay. When you prompt for sale amount, so when a valid invoice number has been entered and you're prompting for a sale amount, do not proceed until the user has entered a non-negative value, so the sales amount's going to be 0 or greater. After a valid purchase object has been created, display the purchase object's invoice number, sale amount, and sales tax. So in other words, we're going to be calling this display method that we created down up for this part of the question, which is this method here. Okay, so we're going to be we're going to be calling methods of the purchase class. Okay, it might sound confusing. Let me walk you through it. So we'll create this class called create purchase. Public class create purchase, and this is going to have our main method. I might just save it first. Purchase.java create purchase. Yep, our color coding's turned on, so everything's good. Public static void main string square brackets args. So now we're back on familiar territory. We're back with our main program. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a purchase object now. Purchase, and I want to create a purchase called new car. I want to buy new car equals new purchase. Okay, so when we created a scanner object, we said scanner KB equals new scanner. So we're doing the same thing. We're creating a new object of type purchase, and we're calling it new car. So it's just the same sort of thing we did for scanner, but now we're doing it for our own data classes. Okay, so that creates a purchase object called new car. Okay, now that this is a purchase object, we can call any of these methods: set invoice number, set sale amount, and display. We can call those methods for this object. Okay, so let's do that. Set invoice number. I know we're going to get the invoice number via user input, but I'm just going to show you how it all works first. So set invoice number to 1,000, and so that's set the invoice number for new car, and then new car dot set sale amount to, and it was a $9,999 car. Okay. Oops, I shouldn't have put the comma there. Java wouldn't like the comma. Okay. So when I call set invoice number for new car, Java's going to come and look for the set invoice number method and pass through the value 1,000. Okay, set invoice number. So let's go across here, and so set invoice number here will be called, and the value 1,000 we pass through. So the invoice number for the object will be set to 1,000. Okay. When I say set sale amount for my new car to 9,999, Then Java looks for the set sale amount method, comes over here, runs that set sale amount method, passes through the value 9999, and sale amount is now equal to the amount that was passed in. So sale amount, which is our class data, is now equal to 9999. Okay, and the sales tax is calculated at 99999 times the sales tax, which is our 5%. Okay, and then what we can do is we can say new car dot display. Okay, and that's going to call the display method, and it's going to display the data that belongs to that's all been set for the new car. Okay, so it's going to have an invoice number of 1,000, a sales amount of 9999, and a sales tax of 5% of 9999. Okay, so let's run that and see how it works. Sale amount is missing in there as well. Control 1, back over here, Control 1, Control 2, and you'll see there's our sale amount. So that's the display method getting called there. So it's got the sales invoice number of 1,000, the sale amount of $9,999 with 2 decimal places, and the sales tax of $499.95, which is 5% of the 99999. Okay. Once you've got one object created, you can create as many objects as you like. Let's create another object and purchase. I'm going to purchase a new laptop. Equals new purchase. Okay, so new car's data is stored in one place in memory, and it's got its own invoice number, price, sales amount, and sales tax. Now just created another object, and that's in a completely different area of memory. So laptop has got its own invoice number, sale amount, and sales tax. Okay, so let's call these methods for invoice number, and this is a 1002 invoice number. So I don't know what happened to 1001, but we don't have it. It's not one of my purchases. So okay, so I'm going straight to 1002 laptop. You can just make up whatever numbers you like. Dot set sale amount, and my laptop was a $799 laptop, and I want to also display it to the screen. Laptop dot display. Okay, now I can tell what data is coming on the screen. I might put a message here as well. System dot out dot println /n new car, just so it's clear what the data is on the screen that I'm looking at. So I'm going to put a little heading above new car when I display it. Okay, I'll do the same for laptop. And this is my laptop. Okay, so for the car I should see 1,000 for the invoice, 9999 for the sales amount, and whatever for the sales tax. And then I should also see laptop on screen, followed by the 1002 for the invoice number, and the 799 for the sale amount, and whatever 5% is for the sales tax. Okay, so let's run it and see. And there we go. So we've got new car, invoice number 1,000, 99999, and sales tax, and then laptop invoice number 1002, sale amount, and sales tax. Okay, so that's sort of how it all works. That's a very quick intro to object-oriented programming, and we're going to be doing a lot of that throughout the rest of this course and the follow-on course. Okay, so if it's confusing for you and worrying for you now, please don't worry. We're going to be going over things again and again and again, and pretty soon you'll be second nature. It'll be second nature for you. Okay, so just hang in there and you'll be fine. I promise. Okay, the trick is to just get lots of practice and write lots of code. That's the whole trick for it all. Okay, now let's go back to our question. So our questions for part B said, prompt the user and make sure it's between 1,000 and 8,000 for invoice, and a positive number or a non-negative number, not a negative number for the sale amount. Okay, and after a purchase has been created, display the object's details to the screen and save the file as create. Yep. So what we might do is just comment out this code for now, so it's still there for you to review. Okay, and instead of hard coding the values, in other words, writing the values at compile time, we're going to prompt the user to get the data, okay, and create a purchase based on that. Okay, so this is the pseudocode. Prompt user to enter invoice number, and it's in range 1,000 to, I think it was 8,000. We'll just have a quick check on that. 1,000 to 8,000, okay. And then prompt user to enter sale amount, and that's got to be 0 or greater. Okay, so a non-negative number, they said. And then create a purchase, and then display. So that's our pseudocode. We're going to do those 4 steps. Okay, so we know how to do these 2. We've been doing lots of scanner stuff and getting lots of user input. We sort of know how to do this now. I've just showed you some examples up here, and we know how to display the results because it's just a matter of calling the display method. Okay, so this will be the tricky part for you so far, and hopefully by the end of this question, you'll start becoming a little bit more comfortable with it. Okay, so we need a scanner. Let's create a scanner object. Scanner KB equals new scanner. We're back on familiar ground again. Okay, system.in. Okay, we've got our scanner. Now we need to do an import, and it's up the top here. Import Java. Remember what the next bit is? util.scanner. That's right. Well done. Okay, so we've got our KB. That's our scanner object. So we'll prompt the user to enter system.out.println. Enter invoice number. And look, let's be nice to the user, and we'll tell them what the range is. Okay, so it's a good idea to always tell the user what the range is. So enter an invoice number, and we're telling them it's between 1,000 and 8,000. Okay, that just helps the user so much. They're no longer guessing what they can enter and what's valid. In fact, it's probably a good idea to leave the commas off in case the user tries and enters a comma, because we can't deal with the commas yet. Okay, so make it clear it's just 1,000, 8,000, no commas. Okay, let's get the invoice. So int invoice num equals KB dot, and what are we going to say? It's an integer, isn't it? So it's next int. Okay, and then we're going to prompt the user enter a sale amount. Enter sale amount, and that's greater than or equal to $0 or greater. Okay, and we've got a double there, double sale amount. So double sale amount equals KB dot next. We're getting a double, so it's going to be next double. Okay, just the good old scanner stuff we've been doing so far. Now this is fine, but we're not validating the user's data. Okay, let's leave that for a second. We'll come back and do the validations later. Let's now create a purchase. Purchase. I'll just call it lowercase purchase. So uppercase purchase is the class name, lowercase purchase is the object. Equals new purchase. Okay, so we've created our purchase. Now we're going to set our invoice number, purchase, lowercase purchase. So it's going to be that, whatever that guy is there. I might call it perch, just so you're really clear. It's not, just so no one types uppercase purchase. Okay, so perch, and we want to set the invoice number. So we're going to call the dot set invoice number, and we're going to pass in the value the user typed. So the invoice number is what the user typed in, and we're going to pass the invoice num through to the set invoice number method so that the invoice number can be set for that purchase. Okay. Then we want to do a perch dot set sale amount, and we're going to pass through the sale amount that the user typed in. So whatever you call this double up here, that's going to be the guy we pass through to the set sale amount method. Okay, and then to display the results to the user, we're going to say perch. Can you guess this part? Perch dot display. Okay, that's how we display the data to the user, because that's what we did up here. Remember laptop.display and new car.display. Okay, so perch.display, whatever this object here is called, is that object dot set invoice number, that object, whatever it's called, dot set sale amount, that object dot display. So we're just calling the class methods for that object. Okay, I know it's a brave new world. I know you haven't seen this before, but this is what we're going to be doing from now on throughout this course and the follow-on course. Everything's going to be objects. We're going to be thinking the whole world as objects. Okay, so we've got things pretty good here. Now we're going to do some validation. Now there's many ways you can do this, and so what we need to do is a loop, so that it keeps prompting the user to enter data until they enter something that's valid. Okay, and we don't let them out of the loop until they enter something that's valid. Okay, so there's many ways you can do this. I'll show you one way. So we'll use a do loop. And the reason why do loops are good here is they loop at least once. Okay. And we'll declare invoice number before the loop so that it's still available after the loop. Okay, and we'll do the same for sales amount, double sales amount. Okay, so I'm making it so that sorry, I've just turned on the insert key. I'll declare these up here so that I'm not declaring them inside the loop, because if I declare them inside the loop, they're not available after the loop, are they? Because remember the scope we talked about, if I declare something inside here, it only exists until that curly bracket. Okay, so that's why I'm declaring them up here. So they're still available down here when I need to set the sales invoice amount and the sale amount. Okay, so with the do part, so this is our loop. Now we need to tell Java how long we want to loop for, and we're going to loop while invoice number is less than 1,000, or, so double vertical bar, invoice number is greater than 8,000. And we're going to put round brackets around all of that. Okay, so these are curly brackets. That's a curly, that's a curly. And then we've got the while here. And so we've got round brackets around that part there, and round brackets around that part there, and then round brackets around the whole lot. You don't actually need these in around brackets, as I've said before. You don't really need them, but I just like putting them in. So if you want to put them in, that'd be good. Otherwise, you can leave them out. But you definitely need the outer ones. Okay, you definitely need the outer ones. Righto, so that's looking pretty good. Let's give it a run, and we'll give it a test. Control 1. Oh, while. Sorry, I spelled while wrong. I've got double L. While. There we go. Oh, and then around, and then you got to put your curly on the end. Okay. Invoice number. We'll enter a value of 5. And see, it said, let's keeps looping. 88, 999, 1,000. And it accepted 1,000. See, it went on to the next inputs. Okay. So that's one way you get the inputs. You can use while loops as well. There's other ways you can do it. Probably what we want to do is, if we probably want to generate an error message, if invoice number is less than 1,000. In fact, it's just this straight here. We'll just grab that. If it's less than that, then we want to say system.out.println error sales amount, or sorry, invoice number must be in range 1,000 to 8,000. Must be a whole number in the range 1,000 to 8,000. I might put that on the next line so that you can read it easily on the screen here. Okay, so we've got our error message there. It looks a bit funny having all this code inside the if statement, so I'm going to put curlies there just because it looks so much better. And I'll put some white space in here so I can space it out a little bit. Okay, so what problems have we got here? What can we do better? Okay, so we've got all these magic numbers, 1,000, 8,000, 1,000, 8,000, 1,000, 8,000. We've got them repeated all over the place. Okay, and that's bad because if they change once, if they ever change, we're going to change them in multiple places. Okay, so we're going to make those constants for sure. Okay, and we've got this if statement here, and we've also got it sort of down here as well. Maybe instead of using a do while loop or whatever, maybe we can do it a little bit better. Okay, and one way I like doing this is I like creating a Boolean data valid is equal to false. Okay, so I set it to false, and then I keep looping while it's false. Okay, so now, and also this loop here, these always look a bit strange to me, these do while loops way you got this going on. And so we might change it back to a while loop, which is a little bit more no, okay, no, we'll leave it as leave it as a do while. And so we'll do an else there, else data valid equals true. Okay, so we'll set data valid to false, and then if the invoice number's in the required range, in other words it doesn't go inside here, we come in here, we'll set data valid to true, and then instead of repeating the if statements again here, those conditions again, we'll just say while data valid is equal to false. Okay, so we'll keep looping, we'll keep doing this loop while data valid is false, over and over and over again. Okay, that's pretty fair, I think. Okay, so Boolean data valid, set it to false, and then keep looping while data valid is still false, and it only ever gets set to true if it's in the range 1,000 to 8,000. Okay, let's apply this same thinking to down here. Okay, so we'll copy the do part, indent that. We'll set data valid to false. We won't take the Boolean because it's already been declared. We'll just take the data valid equals false and put that down here above that do. So we set data valid to false at the start of the loop. And then we'll copy the if statements and the while, and we'll paste all of that in down here. But now it's sale amount. While sale amount is less than 0.0, and that's all we've got to check for. So it's a little bit easier. Okay, and then the error message is sale amount must be $0 or greater, or whatever wording makes sense to you. Okay, it's got to be $0 or greater. In fact, I might even leave off the dollar just because we don't want the user typing in the dollar, because we can't handle a dollar yet. When we go next double, it can only be numeric characters. It can't be dollar signs or commas or anything like that. It must be 0.00 or greater. So I'm just letting them know they can enter decimal points if they want. Okay, so we set data valid to false. We set data valid to false up here, and then we did this loop. And this loop won't exit while data valid is still false. So it keeps looping while data valid is false. And as soon as we set data valid to true, it exits. And then we're back down here. So we set data valid to false again, and then keep looping until we get a valid sale amount, which it will be when they enter something that's greater than or equal to 0. And then this loop ends. And then we know we've got valid data, so we can go ahead and create our purchase and set the invoice number and set the sales amount. Okay. So we're keeping the user in this loop until I enter a valid sale amount, and we're keeping the user in this loop. They cannot exit at all until they enter something that's valid for an invoice number. Now I've just seen an error, pril tn. I've spent print line wrong. T-L, print line, print ln it is. And I think I probably did it up here as well. Yep, so that's wrong. That was bothering me. I kept seeing that thinking something's wrong there. Okay, so that's all looking good. Now the other thing we can do is get rid of all these magic numbers so they're not repeated all over the place. That is something that is really bad, to repeat magic numbers. So what we might do is create some constants, and we'll do them at the top of the class here. Public static double. Actually, we'll do an int final int min invoice number equals 1000, and then we'll do a max invoice number. Okay, and that's 8000. Okay, so we put all the magic numbers at the top, and that makes it really clear what they mean. Got nice names here. So now what we do is go through and replace all the 1000s with mins. Okay, we'll take that off there. Okay, and so less than min. We want to put the min in there, but we don't want to. So I'll go plus min plus, and then I'll put it onto the next line with the minus sign, and then we'll put the max in there soon. So I've got the closing quotes plus the value of the minimum invoice number, open quotes, and continue on, and do the same thing down here. So we want to get rid of that, close the quotes plus the value plus reopen the quotes again, and I'll put it on the next line so you guys can read it on the screen. Okay, so see what I've done? I've just closed the quotes and then used the value of the min invoice number. Here I've just used the value of the min invoice number, and now I've closed the quotes, put the min invoice number in, and reopen the quotes and keep going. Okay, let's do the same thing for max invoice number. So here we want the value to go there and replace at 8000, so we're going to close the quotes plus max invoice number plus, and reopen the quotes and get rid of the 8000. Okay, same thing here. We want to replace that 8000, which is part of the string. So we're going to close the quotes plus, put in our value the max invoice number plus, reopen our quotes and put the closing full stop. And there's one more to replace, and that's this little chap here, and that's just a straight replace max invoice number. Okay, so we're using max and mins everywhere. It makes our code a little bit uglier, but hey, we don't have magic numbers everywhere, and if they change, we just change them here and we're good to go. Okay, sales amount, not so bad because it's 0. We could make 0 a constant as well and use a constant there. I'm not too worried about 0 really, or am I? I couldn't imagine a sales amount ever being negative, because it wouldn't be a sale then, it would be a refund, which is something else entirely. So I'm pretty happy with sale amount 0 being just hard coded there and repeated there and there. Or will we do it? Let's do it just for fun. Let's do it. Okay, so public, static, just for practice, final. It is good to make all of these things constants at the top, because you don't really want magic numbers everywhere. They do come back to bite you if you leave them. And this is a min sale amount, and I made that a double because someone might decide that 75 cents is a minimum sales amount, or $1.50 or something like that in the future. So at the moment it's 0, but in the future it could be something else. So I've made it a double to give that flexibility. So min sale amount is what we want to use, min sale amount. Let's scroll down here to our code. We want to get rid of that 0 or greater because we don't want to have 0 there and then have it change to $1.75 or something up top. So we want to take anything that could be wrong in the future. So it's going to be, so we want to replace that 0. So we're going to close the quotes plus, paste in the min sale amount constant plus, reopen the quotes and get rid of that 0. And I'll put it on the next line just so it's easier to read. Okay, same here. So if it's less than min sale amount, just use the min sale amount there. And also here, we're going to replace the 0 in a 0 message, so it's close the quotes, plus, min sale amount, plus, open the quotes, and get rid of that 0.00. And I'll put it on the next line so it's easy to read. Okay, so we've used min sale amount, min sale amount, min sale amount. Phew. Okay, so we're almost at the end of this pretty big question. It was a much more complicated question than I was anticipating originally, but it does bring in a lot of things. It brings in nearly everything we've covered so far, plus some stuff we've barely covered or not quite covered yet. So it's definitely the way things are going to be working in the future. Okay, let's just check our question. Create an application that declares the purchase object and prompts the user. When you prompt the invoice number, it's going to be between 1,000 and 8,000. Yep. Sales amount, do not proceed until the user enters a non-negative value, so minimum 0. That's perfect. And then create a purchase object, display the object's details to the user, and save it as create purchase. So this file here is all fine. Nothing in here had to change for this part B of the question. Part B was all inside create purchase. Okay, so over here. And so we had a practice at setting up purchases over here. I had a new car, set the invoice number, set the sales amount, and then displayed the details to the screen with new car.display. And then I created a laptop. I purchased a laptop, and invoice number 1002, just to leave a bit of a gap. Purchase price was $799, and then I displayed it with laptop.display. So laptop.set invoice number, laptop.set sale amount, and laptop.display. And then we decided to follow the question. Then we had enough practice, we could do the question, even though we're still only learning this stuff at the moment. And so we declared a scanner object, and we created some just temporary fields just to store some data for now, because we're going to get those to hold the user inputs and then pass the values across to the purchase object. And we set up data valid so we could keep looping while data was valid, or data was not valid. So data valid equals false. And then here's our first loop. So do prompt the user to enter an invoice number within that range to that range. Get the next integer from the keyboard into invoice num. If that invoice number they entered is less than the minimum or it's greater than the maximum, we've got an error. So we display an error and we tell the user what the error is. So they should be enter a number in that range. Otherwise, everything's fine and we can set data valid to true. And we're looping while data valid is still false. So as soon as we set data valid to true, that exits this loop. And execution continues down here. Okay, straight after the loop. Then we prompt the user to enter a sale amount. Data valid is false. Another do loop. Enter the sale amount, and we're using our constant again. Sale amount equals KB next double. We're getting a double from the user. If the sale amount is less than the minimum, we display an error. Otherwise, we set data valid to true, and we keep looping while data valid is false. The key thing to remember is set data valid to false again. If you don't set data valid to false before this loop, if it's still true after this last one, this loop will exit after you've entered anything. Okay, if you enter minus 50, it'll still exit because data valid is still true. We don't come in here, but it's still true from the prior loop. Then it's just a matter of creating a purchase object. Purchase perch equals new purchase. Perch.set invoice number to whatever the user typed in. We know it's valid because we validated it up above. Perch.set sale amount to sale amount. We know that's valid because we validated it up here. And perch.display to display to the user. So, phew, that's quite a question. Okay, I hope you're still with me. Now let's do a run. And then a run for a while. Control 1, Control 2. Let's enter an invoice number. 55. That's invalid. Error. Invoice number must be a whole number in the range 1,000 to 8,000. Enter an invoice number. Okay, I want to go for 99999. Okay. Error. Invoice number must be a whole number in the range 1,000 to 8,000. Okay, I want to enter 2,000. Okay, so 2,000 invoice number. That's fine. Enter a sales amount, 0 or greater. I've got a sales amount of minus 15. Error. Sale amount must be greater, 0 or greater. Enter a sale amount, 0 or greater. My sale amount is going to be $700. Okay, $700. And then there's our invoice details. So invoice 2,000, which is the number we entered up here, 2,000. Sale amount is 700. That's not entered here. That was a valid amount. And the sales tax is 5% of that, which is $35. Okay, so our code's working beautifully. Let's run it again and do another one. Control 1, Control 2. The invoice number is 1234. And the sale amount is $2,150. And there we go. So 1234 is our invoice number. the sale amount's this, and the sales tax was that. So everything's working beautifully. So that was quite a big question. We covered a lot of ground there in that question. We did data validation, we did prompting for user input, we did creating our own data class, we created mutator methods, setter methods or mutator methods, we created a display method, we created objects based on our own class, and we called methods to set the values of those objects data items or to display the values of those data fields. So we covered quite a lot of ground there, a whole lot of stuff. Anyway, have a good review of that, see how you go, and any questions, just sing it on the forums or whatever on the course webpage. Okay, thanks for watching, have a nice day.